It's time once again for another episode of the Buckhead Business Show, broadcasting live from the Pro Business Channel studios in Atlanta. And now here's your host, Rich Casanova.
All right, it's time for another episode of the Buckhead Business Show, and alongside myself, Rich Casanova, we have Craig Williams in the studio. Good morning, Craig.
Good morning. Good morning.
Thank you again for joining.
And we're ready for another exciting episode. So we have some actually quite a few guests here joining us in the studio. And let's just go a little round table and kind of welcome our guests to the show before we get underway with our official interviews. So if you'll just kind of introduce yourself and let folks know what you might be chatting about this morning. Go ahead.
Good morning. This is Aaron-Luque, president, founder of envirospark-energy-solutions. Thanks for having me. Well, I think we're going to be talking about electric transportation today and our company, envirospark-energy-solutions.
Absolutely. And you have some other gentlemen joining in the studio here as well.
Yeah, hey, Daniel Bullock here, Director of Business Development with EnviroSpark.
Yes, and I'm Warrell Thomas, sales consultant with EnviroSpark.
Perfect. So, Craig, you want to do the formal introductions here?
Most definitely. Aaron-Luque, Atlanta native, Bachelor of Science at Georgia Tech, and MBA candidate coming up, about to graduate in 2016, University of Georgia, promoter of sustainable initiatives, technologies, and services. Aaron has dedicated his efforts towards making Atlanta a leader in electric transportation by generating awareness for electric transportation and promoting implementation of electric vehicle charging infrastructure projects. Let's say that again.
Yada, yada, yada.
Yada, yada, yada. So he's promoting and implementing the electrical vehicle charging infrastructure, those little things you see around charging these cars, which is exciting. Atlanta currently ranks number 2 among America's fastest adopting cities of electric vehicles, and Aaron is working to try and make it number 1, and we're going to help him. So, Aaron, just tell us a little bit about how EnviroSpark got started.
So it's kind of an interesting story. My wife and I, we both went to Georgia Tech. We actually met there, so we're both kind of nerds at heart.
Great game this week.
It's definitely a good win. And when we first heard about electric vehicles, and it really was kind of around Tesla, we thought, man, this is a really cool concept. It seems to be where we need to be going as far as energy independence and a lot of other things. And we were trying to figure out why, more people weren't adopting this kind of technology. There's just so many good things about it, and it makes so much sense, and it's such a cool concept. What are some of the factors that are preventing people from getting electric vehicles? Or, is it awareness? Is it, infrastructure? What is it? One of the main reasons was just that, people have this kind of, it's called range anxiety, and people have this kind of hesitation about, well, where am I going to charge? How am I going to charge my electric vehicle if I get one? How am I going to get from A to B? What if I start to run out? So, we basically, said, wouldn't it be great if we made a company that was dedicated to building awareness, building infrastructure, helping companies and individuals implement solutions to be able to support the growing demand for electric transportation. So it's kind of a chicken and an egg type thing. If you have more charging stations, more people will be comfortable getting electric vehicles. And it just happened to be a good time, too, because Georgia had a lot of incentives.
Well, it's kind of like getting a cell phone and not knowing
where the towers are, the coverage.
Well, the electrical outlets. If I have the phone, I like the service, but you don't think that you're going to have to wonder how you're going to charge your cell phone, right? But with your car, that's probably, like you said, the anxiety, right?
Right.
Because you don't see those like you see them now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. They're everywhere. And if you just even look at some of there's a lot of apps on. PlugShare is the main one. It's a great app, and most people use it to find charging. So, if you can look at it for Atlanta, it's just the number of charging stations out there is immense.
What's that called? PlugShare?
PlugShare.com,
okay.
Yeah. And you can download the app on your phone, and it's great.
So, since you live down the street and whatnot, you probably have an electric car too, right? Or,
absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Right, well, that was a little risky there, brother.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I kind of felt it, I felt it. Okay. So what makes EnviroSpark unique?
Well, I think what's really kind of sets us apart. There's probably two things. I mean, number one, it's the focus of the organization itself. I mean, there are companies out there that make great products that can charge electric cars, but they don't put them in, or they don't have, they just make the product. And the other thing is, sometimes there's people out there that may be able to run the electrical or provide an installation of the equipment, but, they don't know what products are available, or they can't help their customer figure out what the best solution is. So ours is kind of it's a consultative approach where somebody says, hey, I'm interested in a solution, or maybe doing an electric vehicle program or charging initiative at my company or my workplace or my home or whatever it is. Can you tell me more about it? And, we don't charge anything. We'll go out there and kind of meet with them and figure out exactly what they want to do with the system. Do they want to try and charge people, or do they want to control access? Do they just want to provide free charging to everybody? There's a lot of different ways you can do it. And so we've kind of modeled our company around knowing everything that's going on in the industry.
Being the authority.
Yeah, and representing a lot of different manufacturers of great products, and then marrying those products to the customers based on need, budget, and everything else, trying to get the best possible solution. And it seems to have worked very well, because it's not just somebody saying, if we only had one product, somebody would say, I'm interested in charging stations, and we'd try and just pitch that one product, and you'd try and fit a square hole in a round peg, or whatever the expression is.
Yeah.
But
that still works.
Yeah, sure. Same thing.
So you're kind of like
square peg, round hole. Yeah.
There you go.
So you're kind of like the independent insurance broker, and you're not in the electric car business, and you're not in the charging station business.
Well, we are. So we have our own product lines as well for the stations, but we actually, we represent a lot of different manufacturers as well. We really try to we sell the stations and we install. It's a full turnkey.
Yeah, they're the evangelists
solution for the customer,
and advocates for that industry.
For the industry.
So if somebody says, "Hey, I'd like to have some charging stations," we go out, we figure out what the best solution is for them, and then we can actually, if they want to do it, we provide a quote. And if they want to do it, we will actually install it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
For them, train them on it, train them on the software, program it, and maintain it as well. And then we also get all the rebate stuff, done on the back end, so that they can get incentives back. We tell them all the incentive information and everything.
Well, I need to connect you with the high-rise condos I'm at in Sandy Springs, and then the building we're at here in Buckhead. So I shopped for an electric car, and I kind of ran into the same thing. I'm like, love the idea. Tax incentives were crazy. We do Atlanta legal experts, and we had a financial planner in here and roll through the numbers, and it was like, yeah, it's almost virtually free. It's like crazy. So I thought I was all on the bandwagon, and then I at the high rise, no charging stations. At the studio, no charge. Where am I going to charge between here and there? But you kind of want it at your home base. And what I was shocked at, I don't know if most folks realize, but and I want you to kind of clarify on this, but you can actually charge that vehicle from just your standard 120 outlet, but the charging station gives you the fast.
It's the amount of time that it takes to charge.
So what are the numbers there?
Yeah, so it depends on the vehicle, but if you're using an outlet, which a lot of people will do that at home, they'll install with an outlet, or they'll charge with an outlet,
right?
And it takes even if a Nissan Leaf, which has one of the smallest batteries, it'll still take about 20 hours to charge.
Wow.
Just from a 120. A Tesla, probably 2 days more to charge from a wall outlet. So that's why these kind of charging stations are needed.
And that's the extension cord going from the 15th floor down to my car.
If you live in that's not unusual too. Sometimes people will, hang an extension cord down from the balcony. It's not safe. It's not really recommended.
Well, once I saw a young lady at my daughter's school. She had a Leaf, and obviously she was running low because she pulled up to the front of the school, and they had an extension cord that came out, and she probably had been going all day and had to go pick up her daughter, and she plugged it up too.
Yeah. And that's why the school needs to give Aaron a call, right?
Exactly. North Atlanta High School.
Yeah. Well, we've worked with a lot of universities already. Just recently we finished a project with the University of North Georgia. We're implementing a solution down for Georgia Southern next month. And a lot of the schools have really taken it on into heart. Georgia Tech has.
Yes.
Don't quote me on it, but they have 10, 15 charging stations around campus. University of Georgia is the same way, and now we also have and those kind of charging stations. For the most part, the ones that kind of everybody uses beyond the 120, just your standard wall outlet, is going to charge in 3 to 4 hours.
Wow.
But now, we have actually put in some stations around the city, and Georgia Power has done this as well. I mean, by the end of the year, they'll have put in 25, but these stations will charge a car close to full capacity in 15, 30 minutes. So we're getting closer and closer to those really fast charging times. And by next year, I think Georgia Power will have 50 of these around the state.
That's quicker than your phone, man.
I'm telling you, the alliance you need to make happen is with Starbucks. So you can get your caffeine charge and get your car charge.
That'd be fun.
I just want to remind our listeners listening to Pro Business Channel and the Buckhead Business Show with your host, Rich Casanova, alongside co-host Craig Craig Ferguson.
Ferguson.
It's the other guy.
Craig
Craig
Williams.
Williams.
That's the other guy.
It's the other Craig, yeah. So, and we're having a conversation right now with the founder and CEO of envirospark-energy-solutions. Aaron, this is your chance to give a plug for your for your business. So what's one person got it in the studio. I got one. If I could just make one person smile, yeah. So give us what's the point of contact for your company? Whatever you want to give out.
Sure. Yeah. So it sounds like we're running low on time. I'll.
No. This is just our midway point. This is our
great.
checkpoint.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. Well, usually the best way to interact with us, and it's really seamless. You just go to the website. It's www.envirospark-energy.com. There's a lot of cool things you can do there if you're interested in getting an evaluation or having somebody just come out and take a look or talk more with you about what charging solution might look like at your business or your home or anything. You can actually just fill out a quick form there, and somebody will contact you pretty quickly to come out and speak with you further about it. And if you're interested, we'll design a solution for you, and we can implement it from there. But the website, Facebook,
Twitter,
great ways to engage with us. So.
Okay.
And we're happy to engage with anybody who's interested in talking about electric transportation or learning more about charging station solutions.
Absolutely. So we got some more questions for Aaron here. Let's have your other gentleman here chime in just for a second here. And
Daniel.
So what hat do you wear over there? What keeps you busy?
Yeah, so I'm a director of business development, just trying to get out there and help really build the infrastructure, find people that are interested, and putting them in. We go out with Worrell and some of our electricians, and like Aaron was saying, take a look at a few different things, the electrical panels, and where the stations would like to be, and things like that. So, yeah, I'm just really trying to help build infrastructure and really push the sales.
Okay,
Worrell.
All
right. And same thing as Daniel. I pretty much do the same. I go out, try to educate people about charging and charging infrastructure, the electric vehicle world, on our quest to end range anxiety.
Nice. I love that. That's a bumper sticker right there.
Yeah.
with an X through it. Yeah. Exactly. So do y'all kind of divvy up commercial versus residential or government contracts, or?
Yeah, so we sit down every week and try to plan out where's our next route, just divide who we want to go where, and just pretty much how our week goes.
That's kind of fun. That sounds like, it's almost like the little Google car that drives around.
Right.
Yeah, you could just follow them. So what are the less known benefits of owning a electric vehicle?
Yeah, so it's always interesting when we're out on a job site, or we're looking at this, or we're putting the stuff in and we're checking out. You always get people that come out and see what you're doing, and it's always fun to have conversations with people sometimes about the industry and where it's headed in the auto industry and electric transportation. Every once in a while you get these people who, electric transportation may just not be for them, And what I seem to find a lot of times is there's just that awareness of not knowing everything that comes with what we're trying to do here. And some of the big things with it, that I think are a little bit less known is just the energy independence. It makes sense, right? Obviously you're not paying for gas anymore, but what you don't realize is the money that you spend on gas is pretty much the majority of it is leaving the state, maybe even the country to a degree. If you're buying electricity, you're filling your car up with electricity, you are, local utilities, yes, they're monopolies, but still they're local. They hire local people that spend local money here in the state. You're actually helping the local economy by filling up with electricity, and it's a lot cheaper. I mean, I think it's the equivalent of like 30, 40 cents a gallon. And I mean, the deals are great, right? You never pay for gas ever again. There's no oil changes. People don't know that about the vehicles. They don't have any oil.
My
in
wife
them.
doesn't know that about her vehicle either.
Yeah, so the maintenance is actually very low. There's a lot less moving parts and things that can go wrong in an electric vehicle.
There's no transmission, right? Yes or yes?
Yeah, it's all one gear. So
That's
no
bizarre.
transmission. So there's a lot less moving parts and things that can go wrong. And the technology is really cool. I mean, you don't have, Atlanta's really great in that they let people use the occupancy lanes, even if you're flying solo, if you have an electric car. And even the paid lanes, like the Peach Pass lane, the HOT, that kind of stuff is all free if you have an electric vehicle. So it's there's some really cool benefits.
Now you tell me, after
Yeah,
my wife's
yeah.
been tripping up to Gwinnett for the last 12 years.
Exactly.
That's more incentive right there.
So now this idea of charging stations. So if it's in a public facility, I've seen some at banks and places you wouldn't expect it.
Sure.
But is there a fee to charge your car, or typically, or how do you monetize?
That's where we kind of come in with our customers, right? We figure out what would be best for them. Do they want to try and do a fee-based model where people actually come up and are paying to use the stations? They're trying to recoup some of that very minimal energy cost. I mean, it's almost peanut. What we were starting to realize is that a lot of these companies that are providing like workplace charging and things like that, they were originally thinking about, okay, we're going to charge our employees or something like that. And then they realized they were spending more on coffee a month to provide for their employees than they would have on the power to help their employees fill up for free. So, I mean, the power is very minimal.
Right.
But yeah, some places will want to charge, and some places will provide free charging. Most of the fast chargers you'll see around town are gonna charge.
Okay.
Like if you want to fill up, but it's still I can fill up for $7. I mean, I don't remember the last time I filled up a gas powered car for $7, but
I mean, it's just
you don't remember
yeah.
that.
Yeah,
That was
'cause
way
I don't think
before
I ever
your
did,
time.
right? Yeah. No.
But it is crazy. Just the world we're living in is that to imagine going into a gas station, they're not going to give you a free tank of gas, but you go to a charging station, and I don't know. I guess there are some places where it makes sense to charge, but
A lot of it is a free amenity, especially even retail and stuff like that, because from what they get, the benefit of having that extra customer, like say I'm going to work out at let's say a gym or something, and one gym has charging stations, one doesn't. I'm going to pick the ones with charging, and what they get off of my membership for a year,
Oh, big time, yeah.
Versus the pennies that I'm paying, that they're paying in extra power, it's marginal, and so they're like, we're going to provide this as a free amenity.
What else would you attribute to the growth in Atlanta in electric cars? I see them. I mean, I see more and more every day, even from my walk from here up the street. But what else would you say contributes to the growth here?
Well, one of the main factors and what's so interesting was just with the growth here. I mean, it had to have been, the tax incentive that was around for a long time here in Georgia. It just went away this summer, but we've reached, a saturation point where so many people have electric cars. You still just see them all the time, and everybody that has them loves them. But there was a point, up until very recently, that you got a $5,000 tax credit from the state, and it's still out there with the federal government. You actually can get a $7,500 tax credit with the federal government.
Is that one time?
Per vehicle. I mean, if you buy another vehicle, you can get that credit again for that vehicle.
time.
So each vehicle can be, you can utilize these credits. But, and the interesting thing with Georgia, that $5,000 tax credit, you could use that. People would lease an electric vehicle like a Leaf, and you would pay, we've been talking about the math here. You would pay, say, it used to be as cheap as $4,400, for a 2-year lease or something like that, and you get $5,000 back from the state government. You're making $600 to never pay for gas again, have no oil changes, and use the HOV lane. It made a lot of sense, and the people that started taking advantage of that started telling everybody else about it, and that's when it got very popular. And even now, it still kind of makes sense. You just don't have that extra $5,000. There's still the $7,500 federal credit that people are taking advantage of. But it's I think you look at Georgia. I mean, it's a traditionally, I think, conservative state. It's not a bunch of hippies running around, and yet we have this just huge boom in electric transportation and electric vehicle adoption. Is because financially it made sense, and I think we're going to see that more and more as the technology gets better and the battery efficiencies get better.
So, what are some of the exciting initiatives going on right now?
Well, I think the absolute coolest one that I can think of is Post Properties. We're working with them. They're a big apartment community company here in Atlanta.
Pretty big.
Yeah, I mean they have close to 20 properties here in Atlanta, and we have worked with them to design a full implementation strategy, and it's actually almost done. I'd say, Daniel, what are we? Probably 2/3 of the way done now, but we're going to have probably within the next month we'll have charging stations at every single post property, anywhere between 1 to 6 charging stations at every post property, and anybody that lives in that community that has an electric car is never going to have to pay for any kind of fuel cost, again, as long as they're charging at the community. But we have public charging stations installed at each one of these properties, and those residents, I mean, they can fill up, and they can go. So it's kind of like, we were talking earlier, with the condo and things like that. I mean, that is a great perk, and it's going to help them, I think, really be a leader, an eco leader, and just I think it's going to be great for electric vehicle adoption here in Atlanta, just because it's going to the benefits are astounding. I mean, when you look at all the things that kind of go into that. So,
who are some of your partners that are helping you promote here in Atlanta?
So I feel
outside of the Pro Business Channel.
Yeah. So we,
Nice.
We're kind of on the same team with a lot of people that are, trying to promote or have a stake in, electric transportation. Georgia Power is just huge. I think they're making a big difference, here in the state just by, they have some really aggressive rebate programs and incentives that are out there right now. For infrastructure adoption. Obviously, they're a power provider, and it makes sense for them in a lot of ways in order to get this infrastructure out there. So they're aggressively promoting that. Nissan as well. They're actually in a kind of a partnership with Georgia Power where they're willing to match in a lot of cases whatever Georgia Power is subsidizing for people to put in these solutions. So. We're seeing 50 to 75% subsidization. So a workplace says, "Hey, I want to put in some charging stations," and Georgia Power is, footing most of the bill. And Nissan, I mean, they are, they're helping to promote this, and we're building that infrastructure. And then also, I mean, Tesla, they've got 3 showrooms now. I think we're across the street from one right here. Yeah. And obviously they have a big stake in the game because they. Are basically only make electric vehicles. Yep. So, they're heavily involved in trying to promote this as well. So,
some great partners there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's go back to this fear factor as a consumer. At the top of the show, you were talking about this. So, how do you, from the business standpoint, or from you as the CEO, how do you kind of alleviate some of those challenges that people have, or kind of run through, if I owned an electric car, what's the day in the life of, if you will, as an owner, right? How often give me some of the numbers. How often do you charge? What's the, is it kind of like your cell phone? You just got to kind of keep aware of it, right? Or like
so it's
the gas in your car.
No, that's a great question because, you think you're going to be terrified.
Yeah,
when you're first thinking about it. You're like, because, I start to get worried when my cell phone gets low battery. Yeah. What are you going to do when your
car,
your vehicle that you're relying on to get to your next meeting
for
or
your
wherever
cell phone
it is.
too? That's charged up to it. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So your cell phone's low and your car's low. Then But the great thing is now, I mean, and even what a lot of people didn't even have this when we first started really picking up and adopting electric vehicles. I mean, there was a point where Atlanta, I think people were buying or leasing electric cars at a rate of over 1,000 vehicles a month here in Atlanta. I don't know what the numbers are just in the last few months, but up until very recently, it's been pretty high, and that was without a whole lot of infrastructure. And we're trying to catch up with the demand now. But the great thing is with these apps like PlugShare, and even the vehicles themselves have, ways to find charging stations. If you have a feeling that you're going to be doing a lot of driving, what people will do sometimes is, and you don't have to do this I don't think I ever have, but I know people that have had to plot out their day every once in a while. If they're going to go somewhere really far away, like just make sure there's a charging station there that they can fill up, so that while they're wherever they have to go, and then they can come back. But as we see the ranges get better, and all the vehicles that are coming out just in the next few years are going to have increased ranges versus what we're seeing now. This is brand new. Technology relatively, and every year the batteries seem to be getting a little bit higher and higher. But yeah, sometimes you have to plan out. But the other thing is there's fast chargers everywhere now. Around Atlanta. And Georgia Power is accounting for by the end of next year they'll have 50 around Georgia. They're basically kind of a gas station type equivalent. There's no convenience store, but you can go and fill up very quickly at one of these. So if you ever do start to get low, there is a way you can fill up quickly. But most people will just, you plug in when you go to bed at night. You unplug it when you get up in the morning, and it gets you through the day.
It's a consciousness. Yes, how many gas stations do we all go to? Probably the same 2 or 3. It doesn't matter. You go to the same 2 or 3.
I don't go to any.
Outside of you. When we knew which ones we were going to after a while.
That was in your route, yeah.
Yeah, it was in your route. So, having that same consciousness, I think it's the same thing. It's just that fear. People push back for something that they completely don't know every end of.
Well, speaking of, you mentioned convenience stores. Do you see in the immediate future these popping up where there's a QT or a convenience store attached to, and either giving out the free charges or maybe a premium to get your fast charge?
I don't know.
But then you go into because that's where they make most of their money. It's not so much off the gas,
exactly.
right? It's all off the
absolutely. And you're exactly right. As gas stations start to lose market share from people not stopping by to get gas anymore, and they're not selling so much, eventually I think you will start to see a shift towards some of these gas stations to put in some sort of solution like that.
Well, it's kind of
fast charger
the shift we saw in businesses that would advertise on their billboard, their marquee, or at the front of the building, free Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Now it sounds like a foreign idea. It's like you just kind of take it for granted. If I'm going to an establishment, they're going to have Wi-Fi. But I remember when that first came out, there'd be neon signs, at the hotels or the businesses, and then you look at old
diesel. Diesel was another.
Yeah.
Because you'd have to go to a truck stop to get diesel if you had the diesel engine. So it started to infuse in.
And I was looking through a book of some old black and white photos, and they'd have these photos from the those hotels from the 50s and 60s that would say air cooled, established, not air conditioned. It was air cooled. That was a big deal, right? So now it's like Wi-Fi, and now you'll see signs, charging station as part of the benefit.
I think you'll see that with gas stations, apartment communities, things like that. We have because it's going to, and then eventually it'll, obviously it's still somewhat of a fledgling industry. We're talking about 2% of all vehicles right now on the road or that are being bought are electric, 2-3%, somewhere around there. But as you start to hit 5, 10, 50, and all the major manufacturers are coming out with these lines of electric vehicles, and I've even heard, looks like Apple might be getting into the game and thinking about making an electric vehicle by 2020. It's still not 100% confirmed, but everything seems to be pointing towards even they're looking at like kind of throwing their hat in the ring. So you've got all these people who are turning and looking in that direction, and with all that focus on it, I think we're going to see the efficiencies get a lot better, a lot quicker. Than if it was just Tesla, working on electric vehicles.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think here at the Pro Business Channel, I think we're talking about converting from gas powered studio to electric.
To electric. I think we need to hurry up and make that transition right away.
So we're going to do a quick announcement for the studio. We're going to bring the other guys in here just for a moment to. I want to kind of pick your brain on if I was one of the folks you'd be calling on. What are some selling points or features? Kind of give your pitch, if you will, in just a moment. Again, remind our listeners listening to the Pro Business Channel and the Buckhead Business Show, and want to thank our media sponsor, the Buckhead Business Association, and you can find them at buckhead-business.org. That's buckhead-business.org, and they're been established
60 some odd years,
right, in the Buckhead,
and now they have a voice.
Finally, right.
and we are it.
All right, so gentlemen, with your business development hat on, if you're having a conversation with me, what are some talking points that you incorporate in your conversations?
Well, I believe one of the biggest things is that it is an added amenity. Just like Aaron was talking about before with the PlugShare app, when these EV drivers are when they're actually looking at the app, it's kind of marketing for that business as well. They see a charging station there. They're going to stop at a new location. They may have not stopped there before and spend money. So that's one of my biggest selling points that I use. Daniel?
Okay.
Yeah, and I agree there, especially with a lot of apartment communities. Kind of the reason Post is making a big push for the charging stations is because they can attract new EV driving residents, and then keep current EV driving residents that might have gone somewhere else. Yeah. So we use that a lot, just to kind of push as a way to, hey, you can draw in business, with a very inexpensive, amenity. So it's a good way to generate business for a pretty inexpensive project.
Okay. And I'll have you guys maybe close out the show. So, Daniel, how would folks find out about your company, organization, and reach out to you?
Yeah. Like Aaron had said earlier, our website, www.envirospark-energy-solutions, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, or even they can give us a call, to our office as well. But probably the best way online at our website.
And that office phone is 407-736...
404.
404. I jumped ahead.
Yeah,
that's our
ahead.
Call-in line, yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't you do that, yeah?
404-736-9173.
All right, very well said. All right, gentlemen, that concludes our episode. Unless, Aaron, if you have any closing thoughts or takeaways here for us, famous quote for the day, or...
I don't know about that.
Hi, Mom.
Put you on the spot, yeah.
I think
Drive green?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And no, I would like to thank you guys though for having me out. I mean, I think this was it's always been our goal to promote this and generate awareness. I think one of the main things that's kind of holding this back, other than the infrastructure, is the awareness. So, thanks so much for having us.
Absolutely,
it's our pleasure.
And we'll see you next time on the Buckhead Business Show.
Tuned for the next episode of the Buckhead Business Show.
That's great. That's
Studio virgins, so appreciate it.